really excited about the panel discussion we have today. First of all, I want to thank the panelists for participating. I think we'll have a good active discussion.
So I'm Dev Ganguly. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Jackson National. Jackson National is a leading annuity manufacturer in the country. We are the #1 in variable annuities. We are owned by Prudential of London, not Prudential The Rock. And as part of my job as the Chief Information Officer, my most favorite part is to be a platform evangelist. So couldn't be a better panel to be part of. Thanks, Scott, for inviting me.
Good afternoon. My name is Bin Mu. I'm the Chief Analytics Officer of Bright House Financial. Bright House Financial used to be part of MetLife. And in 2017, MetLife, while fighting with the federal government of the designation of SIFI, decided to spin off its life and annuity business. So now, here you go, we have Bright House Financial. Used to be the MetLife Life and Annuity. So the MetLife you know, which is selling life insurance, is no longer MetLife, it's Bright House Financial. So that's us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Barr. I'm a senior analyst with Sellent. Very pleased to be here and be a part of this panel today. A lot of my research is centered on core systems and transformation of core systems and platforms and ecosystems. And I'll be publishing some more research later this year on life and annuity platforms and ecosystems. So I really appreciate Scott getting invited to participate today and to just hear what these other folks have to say as well.
Great. Okay, so now the obligatory commercial. So we're NTT Data. We're probably one of the biggest secrets in the IT and business process outsourcing business. We're part of NTT Group, which is about a $107 billion company. And from an insurance perspective, we provide a lot of different services to the insurance world. We're the second largest TPA in the U.S. Application services, digital services, infrastructure services. I won't go through all of that, but just wanted to make sure you guys knew who we were in case you didn't make it to the booth and got a chance to see the car. So that's who we are. So we decided to do this panel discussion really based on a couple of pieces of research that we conducted this year. And I'll show you the URLs at the end that you can go out and get that if you like. And we'll show you some of the results throughout the Q&A that we're going to participate in. But really, the fundamental, I guess, hypothesis we were looking for to prove was, as insurance companies move into the digital world and deal with how do you compete with or participate in digital platforms, what are some of the biggest obstacles and what are some of the biggest opportunities? Really, we were quite thrilled with the results. Again, you'll see some of the results, but at least from my perspective, and maybe others share this, is I've been serving the insurance industry for a long time, and the level of energy and investment of both intellectual and capital going into this space is more than I've ever seen as far as my history. So let's jump into this. So first question really is, if you look at the data, 61% of our global FSIs are shifting away from traditional business models. And really, I guess the question, and I'll start with John, is this a fundamental shift relative to how insurance companies are playing today, and how does that relate to what he's seeing with the research that he does for Sellent? So John, why don't you?
I think, we do research continually, but annually we do a series of surveys and research that focuses on what the CIO is having to deal with, what the insurance company management is looking to address that year, and what the real trends are. And over the years, you see a shift of this. Sometimes it's cost focused, sometimes it's regulatory focused, and sometimes it's about core systems. And in other years, it's a combination of these things, maybe coupled with growth. Where last year we saw a lot of focus on regulatory issues and core system cost issues, this year's things have really changed, and we're seeing much more emphasis on growth-related things, whether it's sales and marketing initiatives. But a lot of what we see and what I think is substantiated by these statistics is that CIOs are trying to figure out how to provide digital transformation capability for their organization, in some cases associated with a move to a different business model or even supporting a startup organization within their company. And they're doing it as a part of a pretty substantial investment in digital processing and digital technology. So absolutely, Scott, that's really one of the main things we're seeing. And I think to one of your points, this is going to not just be a 2 or 3 year project. What we're seeing is really a pivoting point or a change point in terms of these organizations, and it's going to be a journey that lasts a while. One of the things we're seeing, and that I've started to focus on because of my scientific background, is that a lot of people and a lot has been written about the insurtechs as a disruptor. One of the things we're seeing is the insurtechs and the insurers are coming together, and the insurtechs are beginning to really serve as catalysts for the insurance companies to make these changes. And I think that's something that we're seeing more and more in the industry, and Celent's going to be reporting on more and more. I'll be doing a blog and some other research because these companies are figuring out how to work together to the benefit of both groups of companies.
Great. Thanks, John. Deb, I'm sure you're jumping out of your skin because you guys have done a lot in this area, and it'd be great to kind of get your reaction to what John was just talking about.
Absolutely. So when you see a company like Jackson National selling insurance, we put it as we don't sell insurance. We provide financial freedom for life. So what do I mean by that? So Scott, when you meet with your financial advisor, let's say you are a few years away from retirement. It's only an hypothetical. I know you are like 20 years away from retirement. And you tell your financial advisor that one of your biggest fears is running out of money in retirement, right? That's emotional to you, that's visceral to you, especially with medical technology where it's going. That's important to you. You might live till 85, 90 years and you don't want to run out of money. And what we can provide as solutions is truly financial freedom for life. That's who we are. We provide that security, we provide that solution. Yes, we sell products like annuities and life insurance and things like that, but that's what we provide. So as we started looking at it, being one of the leading annuity manufacturers, what we realized is we need to change the narrative around how products are sold. We need to be part of the solution process. We need to be part of the life cycle. What do I mean by part of the life cycle? So it starts with the financial plan, right? The world has moved away from the traditional brokerage rep who just sells products as transactions to now goals-based planning. You are far more accustomed to going to someone, setting up your goals, and then based on those goals, whether it's your goal for retirement, whether it's your goals for your kids' education, you come up with solutions. So we came up with a strategy to fit into those ecosystems. What I used to say is insurance traditionally had a very prescribed business model, which was an inside-out business model. We decided to move out from that prescribed inside business model to an outside-in business model. And one of the first things we did 3 years ago, in fact, the morning keynote speaker touched upon it, was APIs. Show of hands, how many of you know what an API is? It's a very excellent. I don't have to explain what an API is. I do have a fun explanation for my board. I say that it's a language translator between two computer systems. It works very well with them. But we decided to take an approach of converting every business capability we had into a digital API capability. So whether it was as simple as address change, or whether it was moving money between funds, or doing a withdrawals, we decided to have an API for each and every one of those capabilities. And then we decided to partner with our channel partners like a Morgan Stanley, or even with tech platform providers like Envestnet, so that they can use these APIs and truly integrate insurance end to end. When I say end to end, I mean it starts at that financial planning where it shows the need for protected income. It goes to the proposal process where insurance is as seamless as a separately managed account or a mutual fund. It goes to that order entry where it's a single click. It goes to those post-issue servicing things where you can do an address change for Scott, not once at the insurance carrier, once at the brokerage firm, once at the mutual fund company, because Scott changes his address only once. The advisor should be able to change that address for Scott in his platform, and the API should connect to each other and take those address changes real time. That's what we call by participating in ecosystems, and it has paid us rich dividends because now we are truly seeing that language and that thought process around insurance, which was considered to be very cumbersome and complex, changing. One of the great examples I touched upon that is InvestNet, which is a tech platform in the advisory platform side. They made insurance as one of their top strategies, and now they have integrated using a startup where we partnered with them and a few other insurance carriers, and now have integrated insurance end to end. So participating in ecosystems like that, making sure that you have an API-first strategy, and making sure that you truly are leveraging what Silicon Valley has done well, leverage network effects, so that you can truly go end to end, has become more important. So yes, I'm very passionate about this topic. It's something I love to do. Again, by show of hands, how many of you have a strong ecosystem or an API strategy to participate in ecosystems if you are in the insurer side? How many of you are planning on having one in the next 1 to 3 years? Okay.
Great, thanks. So let's shift to a different angle in this discussion. So no surprise when the survey talked about, what are the technologies, everybody talks about AI, IoT being big technologies as far as impact in their business. But, one of the things that comes along with that is an assumption that you've got data. And you've got data in some place that you can actually use it. And Ben, I know this is a hot area for you, and you spend a lot of your time on this. Why don't you talk about the role of data maturity as an enabler?
Of course. First of all, I want to make sure I address this question, satisfying your needs. So, how many of people here are from an insure tech company? Okay. How many of people here are from insurance company? Excellento, perfecto. So great question, and also I would put it this way: if anyone in this room or in the world dreaming about having clean data coming to me so I can use it without worrying about the quality of data, that's a pipe dream. That will never ever happen, ever. So the most critical, most important thing is building up that expectation that you have to going to process your data to make it mature, make it clean, make the data working for you. So by having that expectation in place, then with regard to AI, big data, and machine learning, data is the foundation, and analytics is the icing of the crop. So your focus really should be on data and also have a life cycle data management, knowing how data going to come in, how you land it, how you clean it, how you process that, how you integrate. Then create your own analytics data store, or I call that is the analytics research environment to take the data into there. And in turn, that becomes a more usable data. And don't forget, there are also terminologies that your data scientist always talking to you is, our data is not balanced, and we haven't done imputation. Fine. All these are critical components and steps in order to have a usable or quote-unquote clean data, a mature data for you to use. And then also think about is, using data is not just for one-time use. You should have the expectation of the solution you build is going to be used repetitively. Therefore, building the data pipe where you ingest data all the way into your research environment that can be repeatedly used and getting data in there to be used, that's also very critical, very important. So I know this probably filled with a little bit jargon of what I talk about here is just one example. When Bright House, when we initially separating out from MetLife, and I volunteered to, I'm not going to work for MetLife anymore. It's just too big and too political, too crazy. I am going to run the data and analytics organization of Bright House. I said, great, thank you, come here. Then I said, we need to have a data strategy, and we should move over to the cloud using big data. You know what? Everybody's like, yes. Let's get started. What's big data? What are we talking about? So it requires a maturity thinking and requires a building up the expectation, and also from I'll call ourselves as a data and analytics practitioners or professionals, we need to share and tell our business partners that by doing what we do, what we're going to achieve and how they're going to benefit from us. And with their support, with their buy-in, with their support, they're the ones also generating data to us. And we build this entire data pipeline and we're satisfied for everybody. Sorry, it's a long answer. Sorry.
No, that's great. That's great. So
One thing I'll jump into that. One of the challenges with most insurance companies, and I think you will agree, is we are all data rich but insights poor, because data is trapped into our legacy applications. And the way we had designed applications for the past 2 decades have been applications first and data as a side results of that. We need to flip the paradigm to have a more of a data first approach to things if we have to realize the vision which Ben painted here of leveraging that data to provide analytics, provide insights. So as you come up with your data strategy, figure out a way how you can free that data or liberate that data from the trappings of the applications. And as you design your modern applications, come up with a way to have a data-first strategy as well.
Ben, one more question. So really interesting to get your perspective on that. So, I hear people come up with some just so creative use cases of what you can do with analytics, and, we're going to have new products that basically take your pulse as you walk down the street, and your premium is going to adjust, based upon the pulse that you're measuring in your watch. Then there's the reality of what's happening with privacy and regulation. How do you manage that?
Wow. Regulation and privacy is like this. It really is. I want to put it this way: with insurance, we are in a regulation-heavy industry. So, and more regulation is going to come. For example, the first one in the state, the California Consumer Protection Act, CCPA, and there are 7 more states are coming with very similar regulations, and I can guarantee you more to come. And Europe is just an example. Look at Europe is what's already happened over there. It's so heavily regulated that you can barely do anything. Literally, you can do nothing. And here in the U.S., that trend is unstoppable. So it's a tough question, and in addition to I work with our legal team very closely in dealing with all the regulatory requirements and also the regulations, really to, for example, flag, label, and filter based on the regulatory requirements. But also think of additional ways of really is not using data privacy protection as a roadblock for you to do your data and analytics, but actually you innovate on that so that you are independent from the privacy of the data. So I'll give you an example. Is perhaps everybody familiar with customer segmentation, right? So that's use old, proven, classic analytic techniques. Do you need customer PII to do segmentation? Not really. That's a good example of if analytics can be built based on the right amount of information, you actually can elevate yourself to deal with the regulation. So it's a topic that we have to really focus on, but also it's a topic that where innovation will help.
Great, thanks. So let's, I'm glad you asked the question about the insurtechs in the audience. So we got a heavy insurance audience here. So one of the questions is, there's so much, all you have to do is look around that floor, right? There's so much going on as far as insurtechs in the industry, and everybody's getting, extremely creative. There's a lot of money being invested. In fact, one of our reports actually talks about the amount of money being invested. It'd be interesting to hear from all three of you on this topic is, how do you manage that? You've got, and I think somebody in the previous session I was listening and talked about the shiny object, right? how is it that you manage the fact that you've got all of this opportunity of insurtechs to help you, and you've got limited time, right?
So I'll go first. The way we have done this is we tie things back to our customer journeys. And when I say customer, we mean advisors, our channel partners, our end consumers, all of them, right? So we look at the customer journeys, we look at the pain points which exist, and we try to come up with a strategy. Which pain point is better solved by a homegrown solution versus for which pain point do you have insurtech partners who are disrupting in that space? So that way we keep that research focused. So I'll use a couple of examples. I touched upon it earlier. One of our goals is to portray us as a company which provides financial freedom for life. So, and the need for that protected income, there are lots of tools and calculators which are extremely sophisticated out there in the marketplace. One of the examples was a company called RetireUp Pro. We partnered with them to put their calculator on our website, right? Could we have built that calculator? Sure. But is that really worth our development dollars? No, because they are continually investing in that space. Another great example is a company called Insurance Technologies. I sit on their strategic advisory board. I think David Fenimore, their CEO, might be here somewhere. And they also decided to take an API-first approach. So when on Jackson.com, our website, we decided to put in new business capabilities, we decided to leverage Insurance Technologies API capabilities to integrate in those foundational blocks, which we don't need to rebuild because those have already been built. So we take a very focused approach towards this. So those are the tactical examples. The other areas where we are leveraging InsurTech is creating ecosystems. So I touched upon the InvestNet example. What we did there was we partnered with InvestNet and they helped create a startup called Fiduciary Exchange, where we are not equity partners into, but we invested heavily from a thought process standpoint. And now they are acting as the ecosystem between platform providers and insurance carriers to provide that seamless experience for the end consumer and the advisors. So one suggestion I have for everyone is, instead of having that wide net cast out where you have 1,000 InsurTech, where you're trying one at a time, figure out what your pain points are, figure out where in that customer journey as you create that hyper-personalized experience, you would benefit from an InsurTech partnership. Because in today's world, no one can build it all on their own, and it's the ecosystem of InsurTech and insurance companies, which my bet is, which will be the future. So that's a great way to look at it from my standpoint.
Yeah, I think, Scott, I just comment from the perspective of the survey and the research. The Summit research bears this out, and the way things are going, the percentage may be higher than 84% now. I think more and more insurance companies, as they look to make this transformation journey, realize that they aren't going to do it all themselves. And there's a lot of bright people out there that have started companies called InsurTechs. And so the daunting thing is that there's thousands of these guys out there to talk to. And one of the things that I would say is, take advantage of events like InsurTech Connect. Oliver Wyman is a parent of Celent, and they were really bright. Those guys really were smart to get involved on the ground floor. And you can see how this thing has taken off in 4 years. There's so much value here in a few days in terms of the opportunity to network and speed date and find out more about many firms so that as part of the selection process. But as Dev said, you've really got to, as an insurer, look at where you want to make some changes and where you want to make some changes rapidly, and you're looking to jumpstart a process change or a digital transformation. And then go seek out InsurTechs that are specialists in that area that may have had some success. And there's different formulas for the selection process, but also for nurturing them and funding them. Some of the insurance companies have set up venture capital arms, and they're not only using the software, but they're also funding the development of the company. And we're seeing that more and more every day. So I think the main thing is to dedicate some resource to the effort and realize that this is a full-time opportunity to make an impact for your company and really focus on this as a specialty.
I cannot agree more with what John you mentioned. When I come to a conference like this, I normally equipped with two expectations. One is with so many insurtech companies, I want to see what are out there from a new technology perspective. Is that just with broad expectation? I don't have a specific point I want to look. I just want to see what's out there, and then tying what's out there back to the insurance value chain of the company like White House is what we have, and seeing where are the opportunities within White House actually can leverage the technology and the new capabilities that are provided by the insurtech. So that's one. Second is also I come equipped with one or two specific area that I really want to address. One example is, so a lot of people talk about claims and claims analytics using AI and machine learning to address claim. Yeah, great. The topics have been for almost 7 years. And it's there. If you haven't had that, shame on you. So if you have had that already, and if you're doing well, great, keep doing it. I'm moving on already. That part is already, we have the team, we have technology in there. Now I'm focusing on what's so critical for a life and annuity business. Two, the experience study, investment. So looking for new capability technology, specifically focusing on this area that we can either accelerate or change from annual experience study to semi-annual, quarterly, even to monthly experience study. Of course, it can be an overkill, but it's to have that type of a capability. Therefore, we can quickly understanding the customer experience. Therefore, have knowing from that point of view is from product pricing, capital reserve, everything. So really, it's looking from both sides is broad and specific. So I actually will say this is a great event so far. So actually, I was able to find one insurtech company focusing on actual experience study. I was totally surprised. So very nice.
So we've talked about the insurtechs. One of the other areas I imagine you guys are thinking through and perhaps struggling with is talent. And you know, it's a very competitive world, and I mean, I don't know how many people would answer this way, but everybody I talk to in the insurance industry is nobody wakes up and gets out of high school and says, I want to go into the insurance world. Everybody gets here somehow, right? It's not, geez, I want to be in the insurance world. So I'd be interested in your perspective on how you're competing for talent in this extremely competitive, low employment, especially for the types of skills that we're talking about, whether it be in the data side or the digital side.
Sure, I'll go first. So on the talent side, again, partnerships are critical. And in this one, I will actually put in a plug-in for NTT Data. You guys have been a great partner in providing us.
We didn't pay him for
yes,
this.
providing us talent on the digital side, like Adobe and some of our other digital initiatives. But it's not just partnership with system integrators like NTT Data, but it's also partnerships with startups, not just insurtech, but even tech startups. So I'll use an example. As we do our journey into artificial intelligence and machine learning, we partnered with a tech startup called Cognitive Scale. Their chairman was the initial general manager for IBM Watson. Not only are they bringing us a great machine learning platform, they're also bringing along with that a lot of data scientists' help, which we did not have internally. And we had our first real operational model end-to-end stood up in a very relatively short period of time. So partnerships are critical. The other thing is, for some of this talent, you will have to pay top dollar. So revisiting some of your HR and compensation practices, especially in the data scientist, data analytics side of it, it's a supply versus demand issue. And being able to hire them location agnostic is going to be critical as you build out your internal talent. And the third thing, which is almost as important, is having a good education program and a training program in your own organization. Because a lot of time you will be able to upskill your legacy Java programmer. I'm surprised that Java has now become legacy. I used to love programming in Java years ago, now it's legacy. But your legacy Java programmer or your legacy C++ programmer to learn Python and be able to do data modeling and machine learning at a level where they can solve for 80% of it. So having a good program for training and upskilling your existing development resources to the new skills you need is almost as critical. So I would say those are the three core areas. Pay for top talent, have strong partnerships, both in the tech side of it as well as on the SI side, and invest a lot in training.
Yeah, thank you, Dev. So basically, Dev answered the question already. And I just want to make just some addition, is also, in addition to what Dev said, agree 100%. There's one more, is if you look at the data and analytics, and especially the big data analytics side, that's fairly new. That's about 5 to 6 years old of that type of the field, of that skill set. And not surprisingly, most of the available talents requires H-1B and green card sponsorship. And also not surprisingly, is a lot of companies nowadays, really because of the uncertainty of the H-1B approval process, is they kind of say, I cannot sponsor it because I just don't know if I actually will be able to get it if I hire someone. So it's a risk, but also it's an opportunity, because to attract the talent with the top dollar and with the training, everything mentioned here, but also if providing the necessary assistance, the sponsorship, and then actually can widen up and open up the field that you can attract talents to come in. And not surprisingly, a lot of these talents, once they have the sponsorship, once they know they they have a stable type of job, quote unquote stable type of job, then they stay and they actually will help to mitigate the risk of the retention risk. So I may not say this from a very political correctness perspective, but this actually is true. So it's for us, once we loosen up the sponsorship requirement, because before, when we first standing as a standalone company, we don't sponsor. But once we loosen that up, my team attrition rate dropped from 50% to 10%. And I'm also be able to attract top talents, be able to attract talents that we really need, in addition to everything taught here. So it just requires thinking, and requires thinking from a talent perspective, what they need, then providing what they need, then attract them.
One of the things that we saw was, 9 in 10 insurers believe that part of their business is at risk to the insurtech, and 85% agree that a digital business platform it basically is a significant opportunity. So I'm just going to open it up, wide open question. What's your view of the future relative to digital platforms in our industry?
Yeah, I'll go in this order. I'll go first again. So my view of the world is, I agree with, again, the keynote speaker from this morning. I don't think we are going to see a world where the insurance space or even the financial services space will get completely disintermediated by InsurTech, by Amazon. But we will see a world where it would be a true partnership, where you will truly have an ecosystem of insurance carriers, channel partners, and InsurTechs working together to create the best possible customer experience. So I'll use another example. This morning, we saw the launch of Salesforce with State Farm. That's a big launch for them. State Farm is a big distributor of a lot of insurance companies' products. In fact, we had an announcement a few months ago that we are going to be on the State Farm's platform. And we also leverage Salesforce, right? So as you see this, you are seeing an ecosystem developing of companies, products, and platforms. You see the same thing with even some of the small to mid-sized insurtech. So we will see a far more complex ecosystem of channel partners, insurance carriers, and insurtech working together to provide what I keep coming back to is the best customer experience. At the end of the day, all of this boils down to the customer wants the same experience he or she gets when he or she goes to Amazon to when he or she is buying a life insurance product or an annuity product. So that's what I see as the future, at least in the foreseeable next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, excellent. So in addition to that, also I see for InsurTech with the insurance provider side has this not only as a vendor-client relationship, but actually is a true partner, actually addressing each other's challenge and concern. I'll give you one example here. 5 years ago, when I was still with the bigger company, and due to all the regulatory requirement, we cannot do certain modeling based on the data we have and based on data we're trying to acquire. So there are two solutions on the table. One is scratch it. We're not going to do it. Second is we're going to synthesize the data and build models that based on synthesized data. But then that comes the challenge is, okay, then how you tie back to the individuals that you really want to actually to target. Because it's synthesized, then you really don't know who that is. Those are the two options. But there's a third option, which is after talking to some of the InsurTech companies, and what I negotiate with InsurTech is, why don't we help each other? Is you put your environment into the cloud, and we provide you our data, scraping out the PIs. We provide you our data, put it into your cloud, and you run it, and getting all the external sources and apply all the technology there. And I don't need the data to come back. I only need the results to come back with the linkage so that I can tie to the individuals I have. And that's it. I'm not doing any modeling. And they are also not really doing applying their technology to our PIs within our framework, within our firewall, with all and also it's all the hassles you have to deal with. This is actually you have your own environment outside of your environment, and you get a result back. So it really is a win-win situation. It's a win-win solution, and that can only happen to work with an InsurTech company, working with another company to provide that type of service. And at that time, that company even didn't know this can happen. So then we work together, build this type of environment. And not to be surprised. So today, if you walk around the floor, you ask for those companies, like especially data companies, most of them now offering this type of solution to address their clients' concern. And I cannot say I invented this, but I can proudly say this is one of the trends that at that moment, we were at the cutting edge of riding that trend. So this is just one example of working with the InsurTech companies to think really outside the box, to work with them, to address the situation that you have. If using the traditional ways to address that, you basically have to abandon that. So that's my answer.
Great. Thanks. John?
I think there's really 3 points I'd like to make in response to this. Number one is that absolutely insurers, if they're not doing something, they need to be really concerned that their traditional business model is at risk, largely due to the activities of InsurTechs and their competitors. And if you have not begun to deal with that and come to grips with it, you better get moving quickly. The second thing is that the digital platform is really going to underlie the kinds of changes that we see in the industry in terms of the business models, the advances in use of the ecosystem and everything else. And that's really key in developing, we would advocate an API-based platform strategy, digital platform strategy that's very well architected is fundamental to becoming a leader and staying in a leadership position in this industry. But I think the third thing that's really important that isn't mentioned here is it's the role of innovation. For those of us that have been in the industry for over 25 years, we've gotten to a point where my colleague would say, I've been in this industry for 25 years and I've seen a lot, but he said it's only been in the last 3 years that things have really gotten interesting. And that's true. The rate of change in this industry, as well as other industries, has significantly picked up in the last 3 years. And the role of innovation in everything we talk about, it's not just about the technology. It's the innovative ideas and programs. It's the cultural changes that are taking place, the business model changes. All those are really important factors. And so Celent has done research in this area for a number of years. Over the last 3 to 5 years, a lot of our research has been focused on innovation and digital modernization and transformation. And now it's interesting that even BEST is recognizing that that's an important factor to the viability of insurance companies. And so they've incorporated it into their program for evaluating insurance companies. And we've done some research along with that. So I think that's a factor that needs to be put in here too in terms of the survey and looking at the role that insurance leadership is willing to take now to say, hey, I'm going to place a bet on this. I'm going to place a bet on this greenfield startup, or the use of new technology and investment in AI, or even betting on an insurtech down the block that may help me implement a new business model or try something new with a relatively low risk. Those are all really important factors in this whole process, I think. And together they're making for very exciting times and a lot of change. And that's why there's probably 2,000 insurtechs that are in play one way or another here at this conference.
So one thing I'll add to your culture point, more than technology, we feel that culture is the biggest element that you should invest in. I think everyone is now in some way or shape moving to agile as a way of development. But at the end of the day, it's to achieve business agility. You need to break away those walls which used to exist between your sales organization and your service organization and your technology organization and bring them in together to work towards minimum viable products to achieve business agility. You need to incorporate that digital thinking in every associate, not just in those IT folks. Because in fact, the other is more important, that the rest of your organization is almost as digital as your technology folks are. So I would say the culture point is we are doubling down on that one, because the technology is important, but as important or more important as the culture is what we're
Well, and the
saying.
cultural change can be the tougher nut to crack, quite frankly. I mean, you can figure out the technology. You can hire really bright people that can figure it out.
Yep.
But if you don't get the culture change right, and to your point about, an AI-enabled organization, you got to get people to understand the value of their data and what the art of the possible is.
Yeah, so it's totally agree. Culture change, and also at a micro level, the process change. So any change is so difficult, so critical. So maybe a little bit off from InsurTech, but also on the culture change on this topic is one example is like today, as of today, if any sales organization within the insurance company are still not using the propensity model to targeting, you may call them as a dinosaur organization, right? It's fair to say that. Unfortunately, I'm facing an organization just like that. So they've been using the propensity model for targeting for the past 4 years. But you know what they do? The first thing when they receive the list, going through the CRM, so all the digital platform, everything is implemented, all for them, they can just click on that number and directly call to the advisor to sell the product. They don't even need to do anything. The scripts are there. They even can turn on the bot, letting the bot to talk to. But as opposed to doing that, you guess what? The first thing they do, they turn on the list, they mess around. Oh, I think John Smith is a better sales. I should add him in there because he sells $20 million of ABC company, even though not Bright House, but ABC company. And the model says he shouldn't be contacted. No, I want him because what if I convert this guy then he'll become a top sales and I can make more commission. But the reality is, it doesn't matter how many times you call this guy, he's not going to transfer. He's not going to go over. He's happy with that. What are you thinking? So again, that's the culture, and also the mindset is stuck there. The way I have to force down into their throat is through the boss and boss saying, we'll continue to use the old technique of doing an A/B testing, a control group and a test group. And I prove you guys, for those not listening to the model, are going to perform worse compared to those listening to the model. And guess what? The result proves my point. So it's still, this change is we talk about technology, we talk about insurtech, we talk about using the data, using AI and machine learning. All we're here, that's why we're here. But there are still people out there with their minds stuck in what they think they're doing is the right thing. And I don't want to change because I'm the smartest. Still, that's the most difficult.
I think that's a great closing topic. Folks, enjoy the rest of the show.